Welcome back to the Cart Barn Podcast. This week, Gregg Dewalt and along with Chris Lemley joining you again as usual. You can catch us on all your podcast channels and YouTube channels, but this week we've got a great guest coming up, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. But first, Chris, we've got some breaking news.
Well, Gregg, a friend of the podcast, former Birmingham resident and now resident of Pinehurst, North Carolina, Kathy Hartwigger, who joined us last year. She just recently went over across the pond and won the RNA Senior Women's Amateur title. So congratulations, Kathy, on some great play. And I'm sure that the Cart Barn Podcast had a lot to do with your recent winning success.
I mean, we've got a trend working here. We've had Stuart Sink on, and he won. Michaela Merard from Huntsville, she came on, and then a few weeks later, she won her first professional tournament. Kathy wins all the time, so it's just another day at the office for her. But she has been a guest, and she won after appearing on the Cart Barn. So, people need to come on the Cart Barn.
Well, absolutely. But all kidding aside, Kathy, that's great playing, and we're happy for you. So
absolutely.
This week, Gregg, we've got Spike McRoy, Huntsville native, and still lives there, and just a really good interview with Spike. We didn't get into everything that we wanted to, but fortunately, he has agreed to come back on. But just a fun time sitting down and having a chat with Spike.
Yeah, Valley Hill Country Club guy, had success on the PGA Tour, played at the University of Alabama. A little bit of a theme there too. A lot of great players, good players have come out of the University of Alabama's golf program. So without any further intro, we're going to talk to Spike McRoy this week on the Cart Barn Podcast.
Welcome back to the Cart Barn Podcast. This week, we're joined by someone that's been a longtime friend of mine all the way back to junior golf.
We're friends?
Spike McRoy. We are today.
Spike,
thanks, welcome
Chris.
to the Cart Barn Podcast.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Gregg.
Good to see you, Spike. We got a lot of territory to cover here today, given your illustrious career.
Hey, before we jump into the golf, Spike, I know the story, but you want to tell everyone how you got the moniker Spike?
So my dad was born in Detroit, Michigan, and there was a guy. They were all big Detroit Tigers fans, and my great uncle was a mounted policeman around the Tiger Stadium, anyway, so they were big Detroit Tigers fans, and I guess I am too. But so when there was a guy that played for a lot of you may know this guy, but his name was Ty Cobb. He played for Detroit. He was a bastard. He was not a really nice guy, evidently, but he would sharpen his cleats to intimidate the the shortstop and second baseman. For hey, I'm coming in with my cleats up, but so the locals nicknamed him Spike, and so when I was born, my great uncle sent my parents a box addressed to Robert Spike McRoy with a baby Detroit Tigers uniform in it. But that's how I had Spike since I was born, and the IRS and the airlines, they don't like Robert. Robert's my given name, but I mean they don't like Spike. They only like Robert. But that's the story.
Yeah.
Does that mean you were a Tigers fan growing up too?
I was. What's the definition of a fan? I'm not. I don't watch it every day. I never watched every day, but I love the playoffs, and hey, if the Tigers are in it, I'll watch wholeheartedly. And I'm a Braves fan too, but I guess my heart goes back to Detroit.
Well, speaking of Detroit, they just played in Detroit on the tour this past week. Did you ever play that event?
We played Flint, and that's a Champions Tour event. We played up in Flint, and I think I played Detroit Golf Club in an outing during the Flint tournament, but that tournament was not it's a different site now, but rightfully so. It looks like a much better golf course than the one that we played in Flint. Flint was good. It was old school. Everybody's redoing the golf courses, upgrading, and but I will say that I looked at the leaderboard and I didn't know. I mean, these guys weren't born when I was out there, so I don't know any of these. Hey, did you play with this guy? Did you play with? No, these guys weren't born when I was on tour, so no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, but somebody got their first win. The guy got his first win. That's awesome, and took what 5-hole playoff to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. So, just a little background. You grew up playing Valley Hill, right?
I'm still growing up and still playing Valley Hill. Yes.
Do you have the course record, or have you ever held the course record?
Somebody was asking me the other day. They were trying to solidify. I think Tyler Watts has there's 3 9s there. So I know I had shot 62 on Hill Valley, and I had shot 61 on Valley Lake, or Hill Lake, excuse me. Hill Lake shot 61. And I think Tyler shot 61 or 60 on Hill Valley. But got a lot of, it's been, Tyler is he's a neighbor, lives right down the street from us. He just won the Sunny Hannah amateur and lost in a playoff in the North South just this past week. But great player. He's verbally committed to Tennessee, and you've got around here. Sorry, I'm segueing off.
Oh, you're good.
But yes, I still play Valley Hill. But what's going on now at Valley Hill? It surely isn't me. Being a Morgan Stanley guy now for the last 18 years. It's been busy and eating way into my golf. Just not a priority. Golf is just not a priority anymore. But it's still fun. Got out this past weekend and played a little bit with my son, but a lot of good golf happening in North Alabama for sure here lately. We know the Lee Hodges and whatnot, and Nick Dunlaps, but Michaela Merard just won her first professional event about a month or so ago, and then you got Gabby Nicastro that's just killing it at Samford right now. She's stepped in, and I think she won her first tournament and still, just going strong there. But and then those Nicastro and Merard and Tyler Watts, they're all Valley Hill members. It's good to see it.
Yeah, we've been fortunate enough to have Tyler and Michaela on the Cart Barn, and there's like you said, there's a lot of really good golf, not just North Alabama, but statewide. There's just it's a strong golf state.
No doubt.
Yeah. Which tees do you play out there at Valley Hill now that you're an old guy?
That's a great question. I don't ever stop at the ones unless they make me. And sometimes they do in these events where, I haven't until yesterday, I had not posted a score in my Gen account since like 2022. And I went over to Tupelo. My handicap still shows like it's plus 2.9. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I can't. I'm not a plus 2 point. That's 3 under every time I tee it up. Nowhere I don't see that happening. Anyway, I went over to play. I got to play they call it a dog fight over in Tupelo Country Club with a friend of mine, and that was that. I had to sit on the one tees, and it's like, man, I'm playing these young bucks that hit their 3-wood 300 yards, and I'm hitting driver 5-iron into every other par 4. If it were me going out just having fun, I'm going to play the 2 tees. That's fun. 3's a little short. We have 1 through 5 at Valley Hill, and 5 being what they call the rocket tees, which are, whoever wants to play there. No stipulation as to where you want to play or how far you want to play it. But 1 at Valley Hill is, I can. That's okay. But if just to go out and have fun, I don't want to hit 4 irons into any holes. I want to hit wedges and 9 irons. That's fun.
Yeah. Tupelo Country Club, that's a good golf course. I've played it several times.
Good golf course. And the first time around it, I'd played a year or so ago. It was in the winter, but you really didn't get a feel for it. But played in this event. It was one of those fun tournaments where you have it's me and Jay Wilson was my partner, and he's a Huntsville guy, but they moved to Tupelo. They have family there, but it's a 2-man versus a 2-man, and you have 5 matches, 5 9-hole matches. That's just so much fun. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I'm playing another guy. It's the 2 of us per hole, our best score net, right? And thank God, because we would have lost every match had Jay not had been there with his handicap. But because it wasn't stellar. But all of that being said, the reason I bring that up is after the second round, I said I'm going to start putting these scores into the gym because I clearly am proving that my handicap is not 2.9 plus 2.9. But anyway,
how much shop credit did you win yesterday at Tupelo?
We did not. Well, I think I won a closest to pin, and that was the only thing we won. Besides a great time and great food, and I love that golf course. I really enjoy not just the golf course, but the facility itself and how it's run and managed, and the mm-hmm. tournament, how they ran and managed that, and the food was fantastic, and it's just a great event. And I hope I get invited back. I played so bad. I hope I get invited back. But
they used to have a fall 2-man deal that was always really good. I took Lentz over there one year. We had a blast. It's just a really good golf course.
It is a second shot golf course without a. I mean, you can hit it. It's not really demanding off the tee, but those green. I mean, they were quick too, Chris. I mean, they were. They're that Champions Bermuda. What I can't remember exactly what kind. Mm-hmm. They have two different kinds of grass throughout the course, but on the greens. But for the most part, I think it's Champions. And I mean, they cut it down. They're running probably a 13, and I haven't played in 2 months, and I get over there and I can barely keep it. But the approach shots there were just extremely difficult. Well, especially when I'm hitting it sideways. But it was such a demand to hit your second shots, your approach shots in some vicinity of where you think you're going to hit it, or it's that old school. You saw it. Everything runs off. Mm-hmm. It may not run off 30 yards, but you get to the edges of the greens and it's not staying there. It's pitching off. But
yeah,
good stuff.
Yep. Well, let's take us back to early days at Valley Hill as a kid out there, and kind of some of the times out there playing with those guys and growing up at the club.
Yeah, I was a baseball guy growing up until about 7th grade, and I had to make a decision later. But yeah, I think I hit my first shot at Piedmont Par 3. I think I was about 8 or 9 years old, and then we moved to southeast Huntsville and on the golf course, and of course joined Valley Hill at that time. And my two sisters and I, we enjoyed growing up there in the pool and the golf and whatnot. But I 10 years old, I played my first event, my first tournament, so to speak. I think it was the Fayetteville Country Club Junior Invitational, and just quickly, we didn't have cell phones or computers or anything back then. You either played in the ditch or you played golf, or you stayed inside. And I wasn't staying inside, and I didn't like snakes. So let's go play golf, and just great lifelong relationships that were built, and from those young days at Valley Hill. And I mean, gosh, Chuck Jones, of course, has always been my running mate, and now we're business partners, and it's just great. And hundreds of other people and young men and women that we befriended and played a lot of golf with, and throughout those youthful years, and then into middle school, where it may not have been legal for us to work at Valley Hill, but Barry, it was a way for us to hit free range balls, and work at Valley Hill, and shuttling golf carts and to the cart barn, and early in the mornings and late at nights, but getting to hit free range balls where we weren't charging mom and dad's bill, absorbing amounts of money that were you could, when you hit 4 bags of balls a day, it adds up. But good stuff back then.
Did your parents have a limit on how much you could spend, like eat, drink? Like when I was playing, my dad would say you can have like 1 hot dog per day, and so anytime I had enough money to get a second one in my pocket, I did.
Well, I was always a really thin rail, and so I don't. They never put a limit on. They were encouraging me to eat, I'm sure, but there were times where the monthly bill would come in, and Dad would say, I remember this. It was called a Choco Lunch. They called it chocolate, but it was really just 6 Oreo cookies, right? And small Oreo cookies, Lance or whoever made those, I don't know. But he's like, how many Choco Lunches can you possibly eat in 1 month? Because they'd itemize it and they'd get the bill, and it's like, says you need to eat grilled cheese or grilled ham and cheese sandwiches, but cook this junk. But so no, I didn't. Yes, there was a limit, but I didn't really. I wasn't held accountable to it probably until the end of the month when the bill came.
What did you get into, like the big group matches early on, and what was that like? I imagine you were probably 13 or 14 when you started playing in those.
Yeah, it probably wasn't it was I would say junior, senior year in high school where that started. I was okay. I was competitive at 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. But you're playing with those groups. You understand the game. The game you're playing, the game they're playing, and great question, because I've never really thought about that. When did I start that? And it was back when I could go out and make 4 or 5 birdies around, and on my home golf course, and Yeah. And Barry Holt, who was the head pro all throughout my years growing up there, he was very cautious with us. Yeah, he was our father away from home, and he would make sure that we didn't get in over our head, right? But he would encourage us to go out and compete. He knew, and that's where you learn how to compete. When you're playing for $20 and you got $5 in your pocket, that's a great way to get in the game and understand the rules quickly when that's the case. But it was probably senior year of high school that I was invited to play.
My dad would always made it to me. He said, "You can play, but the money, you have to have the money to pay your debts in your pocket. I am not paying for your debts on the golf course." And so I mean, I had a paper route to make money so that I could afford to play with the guys. But the older guys, I mean, they gave me so much crap. I mean, I'm like 14 playing against guys that are 40s and 50s. But did the guys you play with give you a lot of crap when you were playing with them?
Oh, it was, if somebody wasn't talking or moving or making noise, then you were playing by yourself. It was every day, every other shot, and that's a great tool to harden these kids that are you think it's just going to be rolled out to you. Well, and it's not good, and it didn't change from Valley Hill to excuse me, to mini tours, to the PGA Tour, the champion. I mean, it's a form of camaraderie, right? And and you just gotta be ready for it. And it's all in fun for the most part. It's when there's a fine line there, too, and there's some people out there that don't know what that fine line is, but then you don't want to play. You're not looking forward to playing with them anymore. But
yeah, you talk about Barry. He was a fine player in his own right.
No doubt.
Played at Auburn, and I know we qualified for the U.S. Open at least once. But
he played in. I think he played in at least 3 or 4 PGA events.
Yeah. Barry was a really good player back in the day, for sure, and
no doubt,
a good guy. So before we transition away from Valley Hill, you shared something. Tell us about the Valley Hill 500.
The Cart Barn 500. Yes. So, so we, the Valley Hill had, and still does. People have private cars. Not everybody, not every golf course allows private vehicles, but this one always has and probably always will. But in our employment at with Barry in the pro shop, and one of our duties we were in school. We were in middle school, high school, and coming into work after school. Very rarely were we at that age over there real early in the morning, but in the evenings when things were winding down and we were shuttling carts back to these private carts, you can't hook them up, so we had to shuttle them one at a time, and these were all gas carts too, remember, and you could adjust the governors on them, and if they were really old members, we probably wouldn't. We don't want to kill them. They get in the cart and they hit the gas, and they'll run over a little kid or on the range or something. But we would get over there late in the evening, and there used to be a lot of gravel around the outer edge of the cart barn, and it was we would just make our own little path and get Norm Thomas's cart and Bill McCary's cart because those were pretty fast, and we would have we would have the Cart Barn 500.
Do you feel like Barry knew that y'all were doing that?
He does now. No, I don't think so. Barry was a great businessman and still is, but he would not have taken it kindly if he'd have known we were taking members carts and running races around the cart barn. The cloud of dust may have if he would have been paying attention.
Yeah,
he could have seen it.
What did you kind of learn from growing up playing Valley Hill day in and day out? And what do you like about the golf course even today?
You know, the main thing that I didn't know it at the time, that's all I knew was Valley Hill. And, you know, he played other golf courses around but I never appreciated how well I drove the golf ball until I went other places. And you know, you have to drive it straight. It doesn't really matter how far you hit it at Valley Hill, but if you're in, you got to keep it between the trees, you're dead. And once I got out in college, I realized, hey man, I'm in play a lot. These guys are complaining about these fairways that, you know, they would hate Valley Hill if they came to it because they can't. There's not a lot of room for error. That's the main thing that I took away from what Valley Hill taught me, what this golf course has taught me. And that's back when they had rough. You know, golf tournaments don't have rough anymore. PGA Tour events, they don't have rough anymore. But back when they did, that's one of the main reasons I was competitive, because I hit it. I was fairly straight driver of the golf ball.
Yeah.
Do you have a hole you absolutely would like to blow up at Valley Hill, and do you have one that you love?
Oh gosh, no, I think it's a pretty good layout. There's nothing goofy, really, on any of the golf holes, which is why I really enjoy it. Most golf courses you go to, there's one hole that you just walk out and that's just a stupid hole. Valley Hill doesn't have one of those. Another great question, because I've never really thought about that, but on that side, but I have thought on the other side of, I think the best hole at Valley Hill is number 4 Lakeside. It's a demanding tee shot and a beautifully set around the lake. The green is, and that would be my favorite hole.
You live pretty close there too, don't you?
Yeah, we're on 7T. 7's pretty basic. It's just get out. It's a pretty good place to go practice your drive. It's the shortest and most wide open hole probably at Valley Hill, which is good for my son. Loves going out there in the evenings and when everybody's gone and practicing drivers. But yeah, 4 is just right around the corner.
Yep. So transitioned from Valley Hill, finished at Grissom, won the state high school tournament your senior year, and then went to Bama. Got some stories you want to share about that journey?
Yeah, I was being courted by Maxie Bowles to go play junior year and senior year, and I'd gone down to visit with him, and but that was the stomping grounds for Auburn. And growing up an Alabama fan, I at that point in my life, I I didn't care Alabama, Auburn, and still really don't care. I mind, but I just don't care. Um, but yeah, I wanted to play golf. I wanted to play golf in college, and um, you know, we're getting to the early spring part of my senior year, and my dad makes a phone call to Conrad Railing, and he said, "Come on down, let's talk." And within 3 hours, he and my mother just hit it off great. My dad and I are, there as well, and walk out of there with a a scholarship offer, and couldn't sign quick enough, and roll tide, right? But we were terrible. I mean, really, when you look back, I mean, our golf team was at Alabama. We never. This is the funny thing about college golf is, we never won a tournament as a team 4 years. We never made it. I don't think we even made it to regionals for back where you had to there were certain qualifications, and it's a lot more organized now as to how to get to the national championship. But we never won an event. We never, as a team, we never won. We never made it to regionals, and 5 guys on those teams played the tour. So, you just, what? How does that? Yeah, and I get it. Yeah, but just a great setup there for us, with Conrad being the head coach the first 2 years, and he knew he was retiring. And after my sophomore year, he retired, and Dick Spivey came in from, was there already with the girls team, head coach of the girls team, and he came over. But that was critical for me, and other guys there too, because Conrad was old school. He was, go beat balls and go play, and but these up and coming coaches like Spivey and others throughout the SEC and across the country, but they saw where this game was going physically, and how you needed to, all our lives, don't be lifting weights, don't be doing this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden it completely changed, literally for us at Alabama overnight. Which the next morning that Spivey took over, we were in the gym at the Coliseum at 5:30 in the morning, going through circuits, and there were words I won't mention today, but that were thrown at Spivey for weeks after that. But looking back, they saw it. They saw where the game was going, and luckily for me, I got to be part of that, because had I missed out on that, had I been two years later or earlier, I would have missed out on that, and that probably wouldn't have boded well for any kind of golf career after college.
When did you kind of think you had a chance to make it professionally?
Yeah, great, another great question. That's even though we didn't perform well as a team, you could see in the tournaments how you were performing. As PGA Tour is not a team event; it's an individual event, and Hooters Tour, TC Jordan Tour, whatever. Those are individual. Golf is an individual sport, and you could see that we were competitive. I was competitive, right? And others on our team were competitive individually, but the hard part in college was putting it all together as a team. But I think it was pretty soon in college that I think I finished third or something in the SEC tournament my freshman year, and lost to some guy named David Toms at Turtle Point. But yeah, he ran away with it. But for the rest of the field, I was right there as a freshman, and it's like, okay, cool, we're competitive, so let's see how far it would take us. I was guided properly by our coaches and our professors there that say, hey, make sure that you have that degree. And that was my, we were there to play golf, but we were also there to get an education. And I luckily I did, because they see the future a lot easier than a 19-year-old, right? And they know what can happen and what may happen. And in my situation, it did happen, and I needed that. I always loved the stock market, so I got corporate finance degree, and but never used it. Right to the professional circuit out of college. But lo and behold, that came to an abrupt halt once our firstborn was old enough to show his emotion of me leaving for 6 weeks at a time. And I said, forget this, I'm done. And joined Morgan Stanley at that time in 2008. Golly, we didn't even have a good 5 years. I had one class to take to graduate. So I stayed in one more year and graduated. Plus, in golf relation, I had never made it to match play in the USAM. And I wanted to see, hey, I got one, or actually I think I had to take 2 classes that last year, but I got to focus a lot on golf and on my schedule and how I wanted to go about practicing and preparing and for that U.S. amateur and I focused and it came true, and I made the cut and got won 2 matches in match play, and the rest is history. Well, I got to graduate. I got a degree, and so glad that I did, because that would have been what's happening right now with this NIL stuff is just dangerous. My NIL money was, hey, I won after I signed with Alabama, I won the state high school tournament as an individual, and I got a food card for the for the horrendously awful display of buffet food for those athletes that were not on the football or the basketball team. It was awful. Anyway, but it was, hey, that was my NIL deal.
How much would your NIL deal be today if you were coming out of high school now?
Oh gosh, I don't know, $20. No, I have no idea. I love the university, and I probably would go there for nothing. But it'd be nice if they paid for everything while I was there, though. So
yeah.
So when you got out of college and you turned pro, did you go straight to like the Hooters tour, or did you play some other?
Well, so out of college, I used that last year to practice, played the U.S. Amateur, and turned pro. Went through tour school, and that was 92. Is that right? No, sorry. 91, I graduated. It was for the 92 season, 91 fall tour school for the 92 season. And man, talk about a fish out of water. I was like, okay, I didn't know. I'd never been through tour school before, and I didn't know how hard it was. And that's a great thing, when you don't know what a through line is because you're not afraid of 3-putting. You're gonna make a lot of putts. But so I went to first stage in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, no problems. Like, okay, got through that cut, no problem. Went to second stage down in Jacaranda and on the east coast of Florida. Man, walked through that, finished top 5 there. It's like, man, this is easy. And then get to the finals of tour school, and then you've got all of the guys that you've been watching on tour for years that missed their card and are back, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, it's real now. And of course, I probably finished second to last or something. But I got, in that, even though I making it to finals of tour school was big because it gives you some status whatsoever. So I can go out, and you never know what event you're getting in. As I quickly learned that, hey, I'm going to you got to go into these qualifiers to get in, because you're not getting in at the first part of the year when you're at the bottom of the list because everybody else is wanting to play. And but I think I got in like 5 or 6 events that year, and it was the Hogan Tour at the time, and then went back to tour school the next, I think, 3 years unsuccessfully, but in the meantime playing the Hooters Tour. It was the TC Jordan Tour.
Yeah.
And then the Hooters Jordan Tour. Now it's the NGA Hooters Tour. I guess it's still the NGA Hooters Tour. But that was a great. It didn't. I mean, it was a place to play for me, which is all I really cared about at the time, because I just wanted to get better, right? And it's a great setup, 4-day tournaments, 2-day cut, pro-am, the whole shabil. But and you're just trying to break even on those tours, which I was fortunate enough to do, and then kept going through tour school, kept missing, never would get. First stage was easy, and second stage was brutal, and finally in '96 tour school. Back then you could qualify for the PGA Tour, and this you can't. It's strictly for the Korn Ferry Tour now, but go to first stage, make it, go to second stage out in Arizona. I had been going to Lemley. You appreciate this. The golf course, the second stage was always at the Ombre, and I had a place to stay there, and I hated that golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Just hated it. But it was economical, and it made sense to go there. So one year I said, forget it. I'm going to go out west. Well, that was the year I went out there and shoot 20 under in 4 rounds and make it through second stage, get to the finals, and finish in the top 40 at the finals, which is a whole different. I could write a book about that finals. A lot of things happening there that were just crazy stories, and I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's 100 other stories of other people but I remember the first round. This is the finals of tour school. There's 6 rounds, and we're playing Lompoc and Sandpiper out in California, and this is the finals of tour school, right? Everybody there they're good, and I make 6 birdies and an eagle the second round and shot 1 under. It was the craziest day. And I didn't hit a bad shot. It's just things that just were. It just things that happen that, hey, you make double like that. And I made like 4 doubles that day. I mean, it was the craziest thing ever. And I remember coming back to the hotel, and I was just beside me. I was rooming with the late great Dennis Zinkon and one of my traveling buddies on the Hooters Tour, and just beside myself. Like, I could have just really solidified a a great tournament and just blew up in my face on that second round. Well, lo and behold, the sixth round gets washed out, and I'm already in the top 40, and so that was sort of the icing on the cake for that week. Just craziness, total, just rain like you've never seen before in your life. But
back in those days, what was it? Once you got your card, once you got through that final stage and got your card, what was that process like of getting ready to play the tour the next year?
Yeah, man, just fish out I didn't know anything. Then, I had asked some of the people at the tour, that the player council people. I was like, man, after my first year, I was like, can I go and just meet with these rookies and tell them what to expect? And because nobody really did that for us, and I get it, it's competition, and some people want you to do that, some people don't, but there's a lot of things I learned the first year that I wish I had a little better guidance on, but who cares? I'm playing all the courses I've ever dreamt of playing. I don't care what I'm shooting, man. It's just, it was great. It was a great, what a wonderful year that was, and what an experience. And then it just slowly became a job after that. So, even though you played all the places and you're just going back to the same places every year, not that it's not nice, but and fun and competitive, and that was great. But
what's it like when they hand you the keys to your first courtesy car? Do you feel like you've arrived when you get a courtesy
That's right.
car?
Yeah, there were events that you got courtesy. Everybody got one, and then there were events that, back when there were like 4 or 5 Buick tournaments. Buick sponsored, I don't know, Michigan, Georgia, Florida, and California, and every one of those, everybody got a Buick car, and but you're right. Hey, this, man, how sweet is this? I don't have to pay for a rental car this week. That's great. I have arrived. I'm here.
Be honest. Did you ever think about keeping the courtesy car?
There were some nice ones. The nicest ones were Buick's a good car. No, I'm not shunning them, but the best tournament on tour, and this was a long time ago, when they first started the Charlotte event, that was the best run tournament on tour at the time, from a player's perspective. You got a Mercedes for the week. It was anything you wanted in the clubhouse. I think they even served breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which was odd. But that one I could have kept I could have kept that courtesy car easily, but they were quick to make me return it.
What golf course or courses were your favorite on tour?
Yeah, that's one. And you ask any, and they still play major events there, so it's good. And that was one that every hole was different, and every hole was just sitting there saying, here I am, come get me. And just the tree, the history of that golf course, it wasn't just built, it's been there for a long time. And the trees, the oak line tree fairways, and the greens were just immaculately perfect, and just a great, that was that's definitely one of my favorite golf courses. Of course, you can't if I get into US Open golf courses, that's a whole nother deal. But I guess one of my least favorites was the one I won on. I mean, I hate it. I never had any success at Enjoy Golf Club at BC Open, and until I did, but I never played well there. But who doesn't love Pebble? I mean, Pebble's just beautiful. Greens are freaking terrible, but they're just just a beautiful place. So I can watch my putts bump a little bit if I get that beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
I'm
talk
trying to
about
think
the
of
BC
others.
Open.
What's that?
Yeah, let's talk about the BC Open. That year, the magical year. You show up and are you thinking I can win this week? Was there something different about your game that week?
Boy, was there ever. No. To answer your question bluntly, no. I had just shot 12 over in 2 days with the Shanks in Milwaukee the week before. And I was about to go home, and I said, I'm already up here. It's just a quick little flight. I've already told them I play the Saturday series over in wherever it was, and for those that missed the cut, and I you go over there. I even shanked a few in the Pro-Am on Wednesday, and here's golf. Here's your definition of golf. What in the world? And then you go win. Unbelievable. So no, I was not showing up. I was showing up expecting to work things out to where I'm not hitting it off the hosel. So
that can't be a good feeling. It's never a good feeling to hit one off, but it's always the next iron shot after the hosel rocket that is worrisome too, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, no, I remember it wasn't. It was. I can't remember when that. I can remember when it started because I was playing with Craig Perry in the practice round at the U.S. Open, and we're on this hole. I'm sorry. We're on this little dogleg lift par 4. Hold on, sorry, I'm plugging this thing in.
You're fine.
And I haven't shanked one all day, and I 9-iron in my hand, and it didn't even get off the ground bad shank. I mean, like zip, and I can't remember who else, but it was Craig was out front right of me, and it didn't really come close to them, but it was probably 15 yards in front of them, and I was, give me another ball, and I threw it down, and I looked up, and you could see him. He he's not ugly, but he just like you could see him sort of backing up, backing up away. He knows what's coming next, but and it did. I was like, all right, forget it.
Oh gosh, that's funny.
What was that feeling like though when you make the final putt to win the first PGA Tour event?
Yeah, well, just elation. I knew it was big. I knew where I stood, but I also knew that there were, I was an hour before the last group. So there was a bunch of people, jammed at the top of the board, Sean McKeel had a 5-stroke lead over second and a 7-stroke lead over third. So, and I guess I was 7 back. I was tied for third going into the last round. But I knew just crazy story. They almost didn't have this tournament because they had these incredible floods. It floods there all the time. It sits right there's actually some parts of that golf course that are below the river. sort of like over in Natchez, and when we used to play a place, you could look up to the river. So they almost didn't have this golf tournament, and they would literally, they had to find pieces of the green that had grass on it, and they would just stick the hole location in that. I mean, we're talking dirt. I mean, it was, when these greens were, a month and a half before the event, they were completely submerged underwater.
Wow.
And so that drains away. It leaves that silt on there, and then you got to get rid of that. And it just killed. This is bent grass, so it's just killing it, and killed most of it. But I hit my putt on the last hole. I've watched it a few times since then, but it didn't look like it was bumping on a video. But man, standing over it and watching, it's like, man, is it gonna kick out? Is it gonna bump left? Is it gonna bump right? It's breaking left to right, and then goes in the hole, and I didn't even step towards the hole. I just turned around. The crowd was behind me mainly, and I was just so elated. I didn't even know where the crowd was to begin with, but I knew it. David Peoples was my playing partner that day, and he was excited for me, and we gave some high five. I don't know where my caddy was at the time, but he was getting the ball out of the hole because he didn't give it to me until later. But anyway, that was some kind of wonderful.
That's great.
But I didn't. I'm sorry to cut you up, but I knew it was big. I knew where I stood, and I knew there was players behind me that Fred Funk, Sean McKeel, others that that were very capable of. I mean, this is a short golf course. This is not a long, difficult, challenging. It's challenging, but it's very scoreable if you're hitting the ball in play. And 14. 15, 16, 14 is a real long par 3. That's the longest hole in the course, probably. But 15, 16, 17, 18 are very birdieable holes, and so I went up into the booth. I grew up with Sean, playing with Sean. He's a Memphis boy, and he really was the only one that once I got through, once I finished and grabbed some lunch and went up to the media room, he was the only one that could have really made a difference. Fred Funk could have, he birdies the last 3 holes to get within 1. So, and he almost, he hit a wedge shot into the last hole and almost made it, and that would have tied. But once I got up to the scoring, the media room, and sitting there with my caddy and other guys just watching it, and I think he got to 15, 16, and I'm like, I'm just going to go to they had a makeshift range, and I said, I'm not going to sit here and root against my buddy. What happens happens. Let's go hit balls. If we're in a playoff, we're in a playoff. They'll let me know, but I'm not going to sit here and root against him. And went out, hit some balls on the range, and I did watch him. They said he had missed the green on 18, and he had to chip it in to tie, and he was dead. I mean, there was no way he was making this shot, and but
did you feel like that the win validated your time on tour, even though you'd been playing on tour and had that experience? You feel like it put you in a select company where, yeah, I do belong? And then did you think it would be a springboard towards more?
Well, yes and yes. I mean, that was my 5th year on tour, so to validate that I belonged out there, maybe a little more than the week before when I was shanking and shooting 12 over. But it was a springboard. I went if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't do it differently. But I would probably fly some family up the next week because I mean, I don't know. You know what? Going back, I probably should have. I should have taken that next week off and just gone home and enjoyed it with family and friends. I did that, but it just was a week delayed. And heck, I went to the John Deere Classic next week, and I had a chance to win there. You know, going into Saturday, Sunday, and Saturday didn't. The win there was, you got 2-year exemption. The rest of that, and I'm playing conditional. I'm a conditional member at the time. I don't have my tour card. I mean, I've got my tour card, but I don't know when I'm playing. I think that was my 8th or 9th event of the year, and on the PGA Tour, and then bam, all of a sudden, oh, you're exempt the rest of the year for every tournament and 2 more years. And oh, by the way, that just solidified your PGA retirement. You're now vested in the PGA retirement, which is nice.
Being a financial guy, that was important, right?
That was definitely one of my goals. Once I realized what it was, that was definitely a goal but go play better, play better, and that'll take care of everything. You don't have to worry about, you can have that goal, but you got to play good to
get it. Yeah. Spike, you've thrown out some names. Tell us some more people that you played with when you were playing on the tour.
Everybody, after Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. Did you ever play with Arnold?
I did not. And I say that I may have played a hole or two with him.
Yeah.
In a practice round. Definitely got to play with Jack and Freddie, and I mean, all of the old guys. After and maybe not Trevino, or Player, but starting with like Fred Couples and the guys like McCumber.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back, in the, Mahaffey, maybe not so much. Johnny Miller, no, he was pretty much done. Or on the Champions Tour, right, at that time. But everybody, after that, those 70s players that were still out there, the 80s players, all of them, because early 90s, and they were out. Most of those that were out there for 20 years. Corey Pavin, Lauren Roberts, Tom Lehman, Lee Jansen, all these guys. I was watching the event, a replay actually last night of the Detroit tournament, and it's like, Dad, did you play with any of these guys? I said, son, these guys weren't born when I was playing on the tour. No, so no, I have not.
Was there an intimidating pairing? You woke up and said, "Oh, I'm paired the first 2 rounds with this guy," and I just kind of intimidating name.
No, I mean, no. It was fun. I've never been one that is like starstruck by anyone. I'll tell you the only time that I've ever been starstruck. We were at Pebble Beach, and you've got, I mean, I'm eating breakfast next to Clint Eastwood, right? You know, and it's just the way the whole thing is set up. It's so cool. But Rick Jordan, actually from TC Jordan Golf Tour, Rick Jordan, it was he and I had gone out to this event that Clint Eastwood was putting on, and at Carmel Ranch by the sea or wherever it was. But and we're just sitting there. You know, Rick doesn't drink anymore, and I'm just sitting there enjoying. There's John Denver's over in the corner. You know, I mean, just, you know, who's who. And I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And then Glenn Fry walked in the door. And I was like, holy cow. I mean, that, you know, that took it over the top to me. And that is getting to meet him later down the road, because he was a big golfer. He loved coming out and supporting, but that was the only time really in my life I was like, holy cow, that's Glenn freaking Fry.
Awesome.
Funny. Hey, I know that we've been going for an hour here, and we could go all afternoon. I don't want to take up your time.
Well, we can come back at a later date.
Yeah, let's do that. I've got one more question. I'll see if what Gregg, if he's got anything else. But you've talked a couple times, mentioned your caddy, and I know at one point in time you had a real character. You want to tell the chicken wing story?
So there's a caddy that tells that story. Yeah. The chicken wing story is from Shoal Creek.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had to tell me that story.
The guy's name's Randall Watts.
Randall Watts. He's from Jasper, Alabama. Yep. He's the best caddy I ever had. Or did he really caddy? I don't know. Randall was awesome. Randall I loved Randall before he caddied. But we were friends at college. He would come out and play with us on the golf team. While he was teaching a class or something there. He's way smarter than he really looks, but he probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever met, honestly, and just knows something about everything. Mm-hmm. But you know, he wanted to caddy. He's working I hadn't seen him in a couple years, and after school, and he calls out of the blue, it was Christmas of '99, and calls me out of the blue and said, hey, what are you doing? You know, I'm over here at East Lake, been on the caddy program out here, and I need to get out of here. And I knew what he meant. I had to read between the lines. I knew what he meant. I said, let's go. And long story short, it started terribly because of my golf. And we won the whole dadgum thing that got us fully exempt for the tour the next year. At the end, won the tour championship in our first Buy.com event. It was Buy.com tour at the time, up in South Dakota, and then win the tour championship, and Hollywood was off and running. Chicken wing, some call him chicken wing in Alabama, but he's Hollywood on the tour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great guy.
Yep, he is. Gregg, you got anything?
No, we've covered. We could go on, like we say, we could go on for a couple more hours. We haven't even touched on kind of the finality of your play on tour and that. But I will say I've got one quick story. I think the U.S. Open at Congressional, and I was up there covering Stewart Sink for the paper here in Florence. And Al Burleson was up there for the Huntsville Times, and I was covering you. I was just supposed to file to Tuscaloosa News, Alabama guy playing in the Open.
Sure.
So Al and I were walking. I think Stewart had finished his round, and so I'd come back to watch you for the last few holes on Friday. And the walk up Congressional, I mean, people were just, it was a million people around the 18th green. And Al got caught in the wash, and I had circled around to the back of 18, and you'd finished up, and I think there was a little tunnel going back towards scoring, and you'd come out of scoring. And so I got a few quotes from you, and Al had lost you. And he's on deadline trying to file something for the Huntsville Times, and he's got nothing about his story that he's got to write. And he came up to me in a panic, said, "Gregg, did you talk to Spike? I got to have something. I need some quotes from Spike." And then, I got caught, and I gave him some quotes, and he filed his story. Probably never gave me credit or anything for that, but it was the guy had one job, and Al's a great guy. He's a great friend. He had one job to cover Spike McRoy at the U.S. Open and failed miserably.
Well, teamwork makes the dream work.
Well,
Spike,
but
we'll have to have a part 2, and there's still a lot to cover. So maybe we can get you back on again sometime soon.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
great,
again.
Spike. Great talking to you, man.
Same to you guys. Y'all have fun.
I want to thank Spike McRoy for coming on this week's episode of the Car Barn Podcast. He's got some great stories. We're going to get him back on, kind of like getting Dickie Pride back on, and dive into some of their deep stories that they've got to tell us. So again, thanks to Spike.
Yeah, thanks again, Spike. Always enjoy catching up with you. And this next week, we've got another Huntsville native, Janie Jackson. She also played, she played at Arizona, and then she transferred back to the University of Alabama and had a really phenomenal amateur career. And her successful professional career started before some injuries sidelined her. But thanks again for joining us. We'll catch us again next week on the Cart Barn Podcast.